Hello, I'm Bob the Booker and welcome to my channel. As you may be able to see, I'm currently bathed in a sort of snuddy thing. It's very warm and very cozy and I got it for Christmas and I refuse to kind of take it off once I put it on. Really, it's kind of a beautiful, really warm, cozy thing. And also, as you may notice from the same t-shirt, I've been doing a lot of recording today of videos just because it's fun and it's easier and otherwise I forget to do it in the week. And I mean, I was hoping as well to have some sunlight, but I live in the UK, so there we go. But what I wanted to do is I've been sort of getting sort of both buying and receiving a few books recently, either as ARCs or from the library, that have just been sort of around LGBTQ sort of perspectives and understandings, and with it being LGBT History Month, which I always forget is actually in February. I think for my mind, I always go straight to Pride Month in my head and kind of forget that the History Month also is there. I kind of always assume they go together. I kind of just wanted to go over some LGBTQ books that I've been reading recently or intend to read really soon, and yeah, let's get started. So firstly, I was in a bookshop recently with the wonderful Eric Carl Anderson over at Lonesome Reader, and we did a little bit of shopping. I mostly held off. I only bought 2 books, which was quite impressive. I was very proud of myself. But we went to Gaze the Word in London, and they were brilliant. I mean, just they're brilliant anyway. I also had this great moment of I saw Paul Baker from sort of across the way, and was like, it took me a moment to realize who he was, and I was like, if he comes back in the shop, I'm going to go over and tell him that he sort of saved my dissertation, because he did. He's a writer who often writes about kind of LGBT history, and particularly things like Polari, the sort of slang that was used. And a large part of my dissertation for my master's was literally writing about about Polari and quoting him, and I had this moment of like, and he's gone, no. But anyway, while I was there, we were encouraged by the bookseller, one of the booksellers there, to check out a book that I kept on hearing about, but I kept on sort of forgetting to actually go and look at really properly, which is The Whale Tattoo by John Ransom. And I'm really, really excited about this. This sounds really brilliant just in terms of a beautiful sort of tale of kind of coming out and sort of understanding identity and all these sort of other things, all across this sort of other circumstance of sort of a whale sort of washing up on shore. So really, really excited to check this out. Eric and I both ended up buying a copy, so hopefully we'll buddy read or read sort of similar times. But this sounds so beautiful, and I'm really, really excited to check it out. As I am for The House of Impossible Beauties by Joseph Cassara, which Eric pointed out, and I'd never heard of, but sounds really interesting, looking at the sort of Vogue and ball scene of New York, and particularly actually featuring some LGBTQ people from history. So kind of people who were involved in the ball scene historically, people who actually turn up in the film Paris is Burning, so Venus Extravaganza and a few other people. So really, really excited to check this out. But it's a little bit longer, so maybe I'll pause it for a bit or I'll check it out later. But really, really excited to check this out. This sounds like the kind of the beautiful kind of queer historical thing that I need in my life right now. So there's that. I was also in a little bookshop a few weeks ago near kind of just that I always really love. It's a sort of a radical bookshop in London, and they sell lots of books kind of around politics and around various other things, but they also have a really impressive LGBTQ section. And I bought 2 little things from this. One, which was the Appendix, which is Transmasculine Joy in a Transphobic Culture, which is a really tiny little thing, but sounds fascinating in kind of exploring transphobia and the media and various other things, and really, really excited to see this. And also Deep Sniff, which is A History of Poppers and Queer Futures by Adam Zmith. And apart from the fact that this title is kind of incredible, I'd heard a little bit about this on Twitter. I'd sort of seen it kind of buzzing around and was kind of keen to check it out. But I also just love that this is really looking at kind of queer history and queer future sort of politics in a sort of really fascinating way. So definitely keen to check this out. And that may sound like I was buying loads and loads of books all the time. I wasn't. I've been trying to avoid it. I often don't really do hauls, just mostly because my hauls are me going down to the library and picking up 5 books that I requested 2 months ago. So it's much less glamorous and much less exciting. But I wanted to talk about a few more that I've been really excited to check out as well. One of these is The Membranes by Ta-Wei. And this is a read-along, and a sort of buddy read-along that Jen the Librarian is doing. And it focuses on kind of queer characters in Taiwan and this sort of really beautiful explanation. I'm just really excited to get kind of stuck in because I don't really think I've read all that much literature from Taiwan, I want to say. So really excited to check this out and to read along with Jen and everybody else. I bought this a while ago and then basically just couldn't. I was on holiday and I was away and then I did some other stuff and I wasn't near to actually go and pick this up. So finally, about 2 weeks before the read along finishes, I'm like, oh, let's buy it and finally read the whole thing. But it's short and it'll be fine. But also, I was sent an advance copy from a publisher who I really do love. They were the publishers Incandescent, who published a dress book by Neil Bartlett, which was one of my absolute favourite books from last year. Just a beautiful, haunting, stunning book that just made me like get quite weepy and just really captured me and really got to me. And one of the people who set up that publishing that publisher is Justin David, who has sent me a copy of his book Kissing the Lizard. So at some point soon I'm due to be doing a little mini interview with him on this, and I'm really excited to kind of talk about this book and kind of read a bit more about it and kind of hear his sort of thoughts on kind of the book industry and particularly being a sort of queer publisher and all these sort of other things. But really excited, and again, a nice little slim book. A lot of my books at the moment are very short, which is good because my brain is fried. So there we go. But really excited for this. And in terms of some other upcoming books that I'm super excited about, in March, 2 books by queer authors are coming out that I think are just going to be really beautiful. So one of those is Julia Armfield's new book, the name of which I've just forgotten. Give me 1 second. So her book coming out is Our Wives Under the Sea, which explores a lot of queer sort of romance and sort of all this other sort of stuff happening in a really interesting setting. And I enjoyed her short story collection Salt Slow, and particularly the beautiful sort of sumptuousness of that writing. So I'm really keen to see what that looks like in novel form. And I'm also really excited, but I'm just excited generally as a person. You may be able to tell this from me, but these are things I'm sort of especially excited for. One of these is Here Again Now by Okechukwu Nzelu. And this is a really interesting sounding book that is just kind of queer and brilliant and powerful from everything I've heard so far. Just a really deep, interesting dive into particularly a kind of characters moving to London and sort of finding how they kind of work and how things work in a sense of myth and various other things. And I'm really excited for this, as I am for another book that I've heard is really beautiful, which is Vagabonds by Eloghosa Osunde, which looks at sort of queer life in Lagos in Nigeria. And I'm really excited for that, just to kind of understand a little bit more about actually what the queer scene looks like there. I have to admit I know very little about it, but I've heard that this book is really beautiful, quite brutal and unflinching, but really powerful and exciting nonetheless. So very excited to read this, and I will be soon because I have an advance copy and I'm running behind and I need to read them. Anyway, less about that, but I'm really excited to read these, and I think they sound like such fab books that are going to really expand just how we look at a lot of queer literature that's out there as well. A few other very short ones that have kind of come out from people's recommendations. So I put out a video a little bit ago about poems and about poetry that I was really loving, and there were some really great recommendations, especially from Jen the Librarian, who just knows a lot more about this than I do. I mentioned Playtime by Andrew McMillan in that video, and I'm about to hopefully start reading Pandemonium, which is his most recent set of poems. And I mean, I've absolutely adored everything I've read of his so far. His language is so physical and so present all the way through that I can't help but love it. And so I'm really excited to check this out, as I am for a few others that were recommended sort of around the same time. So Sean Hewitt with Tongues of Fire, another collection of queer poetry that just sounds really beautiful and kind of heart-wrenching and just stunning. Likewise, Soho by Richard Scott, which, as the title would suggest, is also a queer set of queer poems. This is going to be a very queer poetry heavy month, or 2 months. So let's see, it should be very exciting. And last but absolutely not least, in the end, it was all about love by Musa Okwonga. I've sort of been following him on Twitter for a while and found him really interesting as a person, and sort of the articles he would write and the poems he would put out. And then I really enjoyed the book that he published this and another book last year, and the other book was about being kind of going to Eton, I believe it was, off the top of my head, as a young man, and sort of particularly as a young black man, a young queer black man, and finding that particularly strange in the setting of all these other very, very rich people, and he just did not belong to the same world as so many of them. And this is his sort of a little bit of a love letter in some ways to Berlin, where he now lives, and to sort of his history and to various other things. And I heard this really highly recommended by Simon Savage over at Savage Reads. I forgot the title of the channel there for a second, and by a few others last year. So I'm really, really excited to check this out. His writing is always so rich and beautiful, so very, 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 very excited for this one. So I realised that's a lot of books, and the likelihood of me reading all of them very soon is maybe, well, I know some of the shorter ones I do need to get back to the library, so probably will. But really, really excited nonetheless, and yeah, I'd love to hear your recommendations of other LGBTQ books that have come out recently, or in the last few years that have sort of gone a bit under the radar. I'd love to hear them, and yeah, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're keeping all well, and speak to you all really soon. Bye bye.